I can still hear the polite applause bouncing off the cheap wooden panels of the school auditorium. The sound was soft, but it stung. Somewhere in that mix of clapping and murmurs, I heard the same words I had been hearing for years. Perfect, Megan. Always exceptional, Megan. That night, my sister stood proudly on stage, accepting the Young Entrepreneur of the Year award. She smiled, confident and graceful, as my parents leaned in toward each other and whispered compliments with glowing pride. 3 rows behind them, I sat invisible, shredding pieces of the event program in my lap. My name is Bella Hadid, and I learned about love through its absence. I was 13 when it finally hit me. I would never be enough for them. Not in that house, not as their daughter. It didn't come as a loud realization or some painful confrontation. It was quieter than that, like the way a shadow slowly swallows a room as the sun sets. You don't even notice it until everything's dark. Look at her posture, my mother whispered. We did that. All those etiquette classes paid off. My father nodded. She'll be running her own company before she's 30, just like I always knew she would. I watched their faces light up with pride. I searched for even the smallest flicker of that same pride when they looked at me, but there was nothing, not even a glance in my direction. Daniel, my best friend, nudged my elbow. You okay? I nodded, but my hands kept tearing tiny strips of the program. They didn't even turn around once, I whispered. They're idiots, he said quietly. But we both knew it wasn't that simple. After the ceremony, the lobby was filled with congratulatory chatter. My parents buzzed around Megan like she was royalty. Megan's new business partner, Victoria, stood nearby talking about investment opportunities. The air was thick with pride and champagne dreams. No one looked my way. No one asked about my science fair project from the week before, the one I had stayed up all night finishing. The one that earned a certificate I still hadn't shown anyone because it didn't seem to matter, except to Grandma Eleanor. She spotted me standing alone and came right over. Her hand rested gently on my shoulder. I saw your project last week, she said. That solar-powered water filtration system? It was brilliant. Thanks, Grandma. My voice cracked. It matters to me, and to your grandfather. I smiled weakly. It felt good, but it didn't erase the sting. Across the lobby, I heard my mother's laugh. That special, high-pitched one she only used for Megan. 2 patents pending already. Can you believe it, Victoria? And she's only in high school. Something in me shifted. I can't tell if it was a gear locking into place or something breaking. But I made a decision right then. I told Grandma I had forgotten something in my locker. But I didn't go to my locker. I went to the library. I sat at the first open computer and started researching. Business schools, corporate law, investment strategies. Anything and everything Megan was supposedly mastering. I wasn't just curious, I was preparing. An hour later, Grandpa found me surrounded by books and printouts. What's going on? He asked, settling into the seat beside me. Just preparing for my future, Grandpa, I said. He studied me for a long moment, then nodded. Someone once told me the best revenge is success. But be careful, sweetheart. Revenge can change the person who carries it. Good, I replied, because I'm tired of being invisible. The celebrations continued in the distance. I let them. Let them pretend everything was fine. Let them think I was still that quiet girl who didn't ask for attention. What they didn't know was that I had 13 years of silence building up like a storm. And I was just getting started. Grandma Eleanor's kitchen always smelled like rebellion. Today, it was chocolate chip cookies, her not-so-subtle protest against Mom's no-processed sugar rule. She hummed as she tossed in double the chocolate chips. Your mother called again, she said, sliding the first tray into the oven. Megan's giving a guest lecture at Harvard Business School next month. They're all flying out to support her. Let me guess. They forgot to tell me, I said flatly. They assumed you'd be too busy with your little job at the library. The way she said it made me smile. She knew exactly what she thought of their assumptions. The front door creaked open. Grandpa George's voice called from the hall. Eleanor, is that cookies I smell? And is that our favorite granddaughter I hear? I'm your only granddaughter who visits, I called back. Megan hadn't set foot in their house since last Thanksgiving, when she called it embarrassingly middle class. Grandpa sat at the counter and unfolded his newspaper. Interesting article in here. Heritage Capital's looking for fresh talent in their analytics department. I looked up. Heritage Capital? The same firm that rejected Megan's application last year? Highly competitive, he continued. But they're looking for someone with a background in finance and environmental science. My exact double major. The one my parents called impractical. My phone buzzed. A text from Daniel. Your sister's latest Instagram post. You need to see this. I opened it and felt my stomach knot. There was Megan, posed in front of Heritage Capital's building. "Big news coming soon," the caption read. "Sometimes the best opportunities come to those who wait." "She's trying to get in through Victoria's connections," I muttered. Grandma's spatula hit the counter. That girl wouldn't know honest work if it bit her on her designer handbag. George cleared his throat, though I do wonder how she'd handle real competition. I stared at the article. The job description matched my resume like a glove. "I could apply," I said softly. "You could," Grandma agreed, pulling the cookies from the oven. "And wouldn't that be interesting?" My phone buzzed again, this time a family group text from Mom. "Dinner tomorrow to celebrate Megan's exciting news. Attendance mandatory." Grandpa squeezed my hand. Sometimes the best revenge isn't about destroying someone else's chances. It's about finally taking your own. I stood up. "I need to go home and update my resume, maybe buy a new suit." "Take some cookies," Grandma said. "Brain food. For planning." As I drove home, I thought about every time they had ignored me. Every time Megan was handed something while I earned mine in silence. This job wasn't just a career move. It was a declaration. I'm not invisible anymore. The family dinner invitation was a trap. I knew it the second I walked into Rossini's, our parents' favorite restaurant, the one they reserve for public performances of perfect family unity. The hostess led me to the corner booth, our usual, and there she was, Megan, dressed like she was giving a TED Talk, sitting next to Victoria Hayes with a glass of red wine in her hand and a smirk that didn't quite reach her eyes. Mom's smile sliced like a blade. "Darling, you're late. We were just discussing Megan's new position at Heritage Capital." The words hit like a slap. "New position?" "Victoria made it happen," my father chimed in proudly. Megan beamed, taking Victoria's hand like a trophy. "Sometimes it's all about who you know, right?" I pulled out my chair slowly and sat down, eyes on Victoria. There was something off in her expression. A flicker of guilt? Unease? She wasn't smiling. "Fascinating," I said, unfolding my napkin calmly, especially since I just interviewed there yesterday. The silence that followed was exquisite. "What?" my dad snapped. "Oh, didn't Megan mention it?" I continued. We must have passed each other in the lobby. The analytics department seemed very interested in my environmental science background. Victoria shifted in her seat. "I wasn't aware you had applied, Bella." "That's not important right now," Mom interrupted quickly. "We're here to celebrate Megan's success." "Of course," I said. "How foolish of me." "Michael, dear, didn't you want to share the other news?" My father cleared his throat, then pulled out a black leather wallet like he was about to sign a treaty. "Your mother and I have decided to help Megan with a down payment on a condo near the Heritage office, a significant investment in her future." The waiter arrived with wine. My mother's hand trembled slightly as she reached for her glass. That's when I noticed something strange. She wasn't wearing her anniversary diamond, the one she never took off. "How significant?" I asked quietly. "That's hardly dinner conversation," my father hissed. But Victoria looked tense. She was very interested in her menu. "Actually," I said, looking at Megan, "I've been meaning to ask about the trust fund Grandpa George set up for both of us. The one that matures next month?" Megan's fork clattered against her plate. "What trust fund?" My mother's wine glass froze halfway to her lips. My father's jaw clenched. "You didn't tell her?" I said innocently. "About Grandpa's equal inheritance clause? The matching funds for both granddaughters?" "Bella," my father warned. But the damage was done. "What provision?" Megan demanded. Victoria stood up. "I should go. Bella, check your email tonight." She left her half-full wine glass and a thick envelope with the Heritage Capital logo on the table. "Sit down, Megan," Mom hissed. "This isn't the place." "Then where is the place?" I asked. "Where should we discuss how you've been funding Megan's perfect life? The maxed-out credit cards? The second mortgage?" "How dare you," my father started. "The missing anniversary ring, Mom," I added. "How much did it pawn for?" Megan's face shifted, from angry to confused to something else. "Fear." "Victoria said the position was guaranteed," she whispered. "She said the funding was secure." "Nothing's guaranteed," I replied. "But don't worry. I'm sure our parents will figure something out. They always do, for you." And with that, I stood up and walked out. I found Victoria waiting in the lobby. "The analytics position," she said softly. "You got it. Your interview yesterday was exceptional. I wanted you to know before things got complicated." "How bad are their finances?" "Bad enough that Megan's position was contingent on your father leveraging assets he doesn't actually have." She handed me the envelope. "Everything's in here." "I'm sorry. I didn't know about the family dynamics when I got involved." Behind me, the restaurant buzzed with tension and ruined dessert courses. My mother was crying. My father was already making phone calls. Megan sat like a ghost in a party dress. "Sometimes," I said, accepting the envelope, "the truth is the best revenge." The Heritage Capital envelope sat on my kitchen counter for 3 days. Daniel watched me circle it every morning, sipping his coffee in silence. "Just read it," he said on the 4th day, sliding me a fresh cup. "Whatever's in there can't be worse than what you're imagining." Maybe it could. Right as I reached for it, my phone buzzed. Megan's name flashed on the screen. "We need to talk alone, please." "Don't," Daniel warned. But I was already grabbing my keys. She was waiting in the old treehouse at Grandma Eleanor's place. Of all places, the one memory we both still shared. She looked small, legs folded, shoulders slumped. In her lap was a manila folder. "Did you know?" she asked, not looking up, "about the forgeries?" "What forgeries?" She laughed bitterly. "The patents. My patents. Turns out Dad's been paying people to put my name on other people's work for years." She looked up. Her eyes were red. "Did you know?" I sank down across from her. The wooden boards creaked under us. "No, but I'm not surprised. Victoria's threatening to expose everything unless I step down." She pushed the folder toward me. But that's not even the worst part. Inside were bank statements, property liens, and a power of attorney form, signed by Grandpa. Last week, Dad's been embezzling from Grandpa's accounts, using his dementia diagnosis as cover. "Except, Grandpa doesn't have dementia," I whispered. "Exactly," Megan said. "Everything we thought was real was fake." The treehouse door creaked. We both flinched. It was Grandma Eleanor. "I thought I'd find you here," she said, climbing up like a woman half her age. "You knew?" Megan asked. "I've known for months," Eleanor said, settling between us. "Your grandfather and I have been gathering evidence. We needed you both to see the truth for yourselves." My phone buzzed. A message from Victoria. "Board meeting tomorrow. Both Turner sisters requested to attend. Decision time." "They're going to lose everything," Megan said quietly. "The house, their reputation, maybe even face charges." I looked at the manila folder again. The evidence, the lies, the empire our parents built from betrayal. "Maybe they deserve to lose it all," I said. "Maybe we all do." The Heritage Capital boardroom felt like a tomb. 15 pairs of eyes locked onto me and Megan as Victoria Hayes presented the evidence. Financial manipulation, forged patents, falsified credentials. It was all neatly laid out like funeral flowers on polished wood. "This," Victoria said calmly, "requires immediate action." Megan sat at one end of the table. I sat at the other. Between us lay years of rivalry, silence, and pain neither of us had asked for, but we were here now, and the wreckage of our family was no longer a secret. The CEO adjusted his glasses. "We will require a statement from either of the Turner sisters before any decision is made." Before I could speak, the boardroom doors swung open. My father strode in like he owned the place. "This meeting is unnecessary," he declared. Victoria froze. "Michael." But he was already performing. My father had spent his life mastering this act. A simple misunderstanding about internal family investments. Nothing that can't be settled privately. He smiled with that same subtle arrogance he used on every bank manager, teacher, and investor who had ever doubted him. Charm laced with just enough menace to shut people up. But not this time. "Actually," Megan stood up, "I'd like to make a statement." My father's smile cracked. "Sweetheart, let me—" "I've been taking credit for other people's work since I was 16, she said. Gasps filled the room. "The patents aren't mine. The credentials are enhanced, and the financial records." She turned to me. "I'm sorry, Bella. I knew about some of it. Not all, but enough." She sat down slowly. The room fell into stunned silence. Victoria slid a document toward me. My official offer letter for the senior analyst position. Right next to it was Megan's resignation. My father lunged forward. "You ungrateful little—" Security moved in. The CEO's voice was cold. "Mr. Turner, I suggest you leave before we're forced to contact the authorities." My phone buzzed. It was Daniel. "Grandmother needs you. Emergency." I ran from the boardroom, past the cluster of press outside, into a cab. My chest tight, my head spinning. I found Grandma Eleanor in the hospital waiting room. She sat alone, her calm cracked for the first time. "What happened?" I asked. "Your mother tried to access your grandfather's accounts again. When he confronted her, he collapsed." "Is he—" "He's stable, mild heart attack, but he's shaken." She gripped my hand. "There's something else. Before this happened, he changed his will. Everything now goes to you, not just your half. Everything." I froze. "No," I whispered. "I never wanted this." Eleanor looked at me, her gaze piercing. "Then what did you want, Bella? Revenge? Justice? Or just for someone to finally see you?" And there it was. The truth I hadn't been ready to admit. I didn't want to ruin anyone. I just wanted them to see me. All those years spent chasing their approval, watching them celebrate Megan, accepting invisibility as the default. All I had ever wanted was recognition, acknowledgement, love. But I had mistaken revenge for justice. And now it all felt wrong. My phone buzzed again. Voicemail. From my mother. She was crying. Again. Please, just talk to us. We can still fix this. Megan appeared in this hallway behind me. They're trying to pin everything on me, she said. Dad's lawyer says I acted alone. That's ridiculous, I replied. I'm pleading guilty, she said. What? It's already filed. You can't. We have evidence. She looked tired, broken. They have evidence too. Real or fabricated, it doesn't matter. Someone has to fall. And it's easier if it's me. This isn't what I wanted, I whispered. I wanted justice, not... Justice? Megan laughed bitterly. Look around. There's no justice here, just wreckage. She walked away, leaving behind a folder on the bench. Daniel appeared with coffee. She's wrong, he said. There is justice, but it's slow, and sometimes it looks nothing like what you imagined. I opened the folder. Inside were emails, bank statements, even voice recordings. Proof of what our father had done and what Megan had helped cover up. But there was something else, too. A photo. Me, age 13, at my school's science fair, holding a crumpled certificate, beaming. On the back, in Eleanor's script. The moment I knew I had to choose sides. She'd been watching all along. Not waiting, preparing. The Heritage Capital promotion party was supposed to be a celebration. Now it was a battlefield. The CEO's voice echoed through the speakers. We have an announcement. I stood off to the side, Daniel beside me. You don't have to go through with this, he whispered. Yes, I do, I said. Across the room, I saw my mother. Pale, thinner, still dressed in quiet luxury, still pretending. Megan stood alone by the bar. She looked like she was made of glass. My father wasn't there, too busy meeting with lawyers or hiding. The CEO stepped forward, holding a microphone. But before he could speak, the doors burst open, and in walked my father, holding a matching manila folder, followed by Victoria Hayes. I think, he said loudly, we should discuss the real reason we're here tonight. Phones came out. The room shifted like a wave. Drama was currency. And tonight, it was everywhere. Michael, Victoria warned, don't do this. But he launched into his monologue. My daughters orchestrated a campaign of slander. They manipulated evidence. They played victim for sympathy. And they forgot one detail. He opened his folder, held up papers, photos. Interesting timing, I said loudly, considering Megan's guilty plea was filed this morning. My mother's champagne glass shattered on the marble floor. A plea she's withdrawing, my father said triumphantly, because I discovered who really forged the documents. Victoria moved between us. That's enough, Michael. Tell them about the offshore accounts. Tell them about Eleanor. The crowd gasped. What about Eleanor? My mother choked. Victoria turned to the audience. She's been documenting everything, every forged signature, every financial move, every moment. And suddenly there she was, Grandma Eleanor, stepping into the room like a queen returning to her court, with Grandpa in a wheelchair beside her. I watched you destroy these girls for 2 decades, she said, one with impossible expectations, the other with silence and shame. Did you really think I'd let that continue? The silence that followed Grandma Eleanor's entrance was unlike any I'd ever known. It wasn't quiet. It was commanding, a silence that demanded respect, attention, and truth. Grandpa's hand trembled on the armrest of his wheelchair, but he was there, alert, watching, witnessing. Victoria helped him to the center of the room. He cleared his throat. I trusted the wrong son-in-law, he said. I wanted to believe in family, but sometimes blood isn't enough. He turned toward me. Bella, I saw you even when they didn't. I tried not to cry, but the tears came anyway. For 13 years of invisibility, for every award never acknowledged, for every birthday overshadowed, for a childhood that had waited so long to feel this scene. Then he turned to Megan. And you, he said, his voice shaking, you made mistakes, but you tried to make them right. That matters. My father stood frozen, jaw clenched. My mother sat with her head in her hands. Then Eleanor stepped forward, eyes locked on the crowd. From this day forward, all financial control belongs to Bella. Not because she's perfect, but because she's proven herself, time and time again. She reached into her purse and pulled out a small box. Your grandfather's watch, she said, handing it to me. He wanted you to have it. I opened it slowly. Inside was a gold watch engraved with my initials. Not Megan's, mine. The room burst into whispers. My father took a step forward, fury rising. You manipulated them. You turned them against us. No, I said softly. You did that yourself. And for once, no one came to his defense. Not my mother, not Megan, not even the board. Victoria raised her hand. Security, please escort Mr. and Mrs. Turner out of the building. The crowd parted as 2 suited guards approached. My mother didn't fight it. She simply stood, heels clicking softly as she followed the man who had ruined everything. My father snarled at me. "This isn't over." But it was. The elevator doors closed, and I finally breathed. Weeks passed. The press went wild. Headlines swirled with betrayal, business corruption, family drama. But I stayed quiet. I didn't give interviews, I didn't write tell-all essays, I just worked. At Heritage Capital, I kept my head down and did the job. Efficiently, quietly, letting my numbers speak for me. Daniel and I spent evenings walking the boardwalk, laughing about how absurd life had become. "Remember when your biggest problem was someone stealing your sandwich from the break room?" he'd tease. I remember when I thought my sister was untouchable, I'd reply, "Speaking of Megan," she didn't disappear. She took a job out of state, lower level, less glamorous, but honest. We exchanged emails now and then. Nothing deep, just mutual updates. A strange kind of peace. One message stood out. "Bella, you deserved better. So did I. But maybe now we can both start over. M." I didn't reply, but I didn't delete it either. The day of Grandpa's memorial came on a rainy Sunday. He had passed peacefully, weeks after the chaos ended. Grandma said he held her hand, smiled, and whispered, "Tell Bella to wear the watch. She earned it." So I did. I wore it to the church, to the gravesite, to the tiny family gathering afterward. Just me, Grandma Eleanor, Daniel, and a handful of people who had always loved quietly. At the end of the evening, Grandma handed me an envelope. "His final letter," she said. Inside was a single sentence, handwritten. "You turned silence into strength. Don't ever let them take your voice again." 1 year later, I stood in the very same Heritage Capital boardroom. Now as Director of Innovation, my team applauded as I unveiled a project I had built from the ground up. Clean tech investments for underserved schools, something I had dreamed of since that science fair long ago. After the meeting, Victoria approached me with a smile. "You've changed this place, Bella." "Not bad for the invisible sister," I said, grinning. She laughed. "You were never invisible. You just hadn't stepped into your light yet." Outside, the city shimmered. I walked down the street with Daniel beside me, the sunset glowing like gold across the skyline. "So what now?" he asked. I smiled. "Now? Now I live. Not for them, not for revenge, but for me. Because for the first time in my life, I'm not chasing anyone's approval. I'm already enough."